If you're feeling lonely and alienated, isolated, and like you don't quite fit in this world, I got two bits of good news for you. First, it's not your fault. And the second is that we really need you. Our culture sucks. And one of the ways it sucks is that it tries to tell you that you're the problem. We're told to ignore anything negative, masking our struggles with positive affirmations, all the while being taught to self-criticize. Plus, how can you manifest positivity when you're so busy we can't even see that we're drowning? We're so much in go mode that we can't just be. I grew up a rich WASP, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, which means I was trained to ignore emotion and focus on surface or coercive ways of interacting with people. And that was called strength. But when my son was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He's okay now, but through this experience and 13 years of other bad events in my family, I realized that the people I counted on for emotional help during these hard times couldn't be there in that way. They were too fragile to handle reality when that reality got unpleasant. So I became obsessed with figuring out why I felt so alienated and why so many of my patients feel isolated and lonely. In search for answers over the course of 20 years, I got a PhD in clinical psychology. I collaborated with famous scientists, ran dozens of scientific studies, published over 20 articles, worked with hundreds of individuals and groups, and ultimately designed a training program scientifically proven to increase sustainable well-being for hundreds of people. And I'm going to teach you what I learned. So many people, including myself, use the bad habits taught to us by a bad culture and fall into cycles of self-criticism, depression, and isolation, especially when we face hardships. Our culture doesn't want to deal with anything that makes us feel unpleasant emotion, and it demonizes those who don't pick themselves up by their bootstraps, which, by the way, is impossible. It demonizes anybody who isn't fitting the status quo, and let's be honest, whoever really did fit it. Our culture often isolates us with our struggles, so we disconnect from others and fail to realize that so many people feel the same way we do. It becomes impossible to make positive change for ourselves, and we can forget about connecting with each other to make the world a better place. The solution is to deal with reality early, often, and skillfully, and with kindness and sincerity. Even when the truth includes unpleasant emotion, which is often the hard part. If we can use the data of unpleasant emotion, we're much more likely to be able to deal with reality because unpleasant emotion is part of that reality. And that's the path to the least amount of suffering, and we connect to ourselves and then our community from that place. Positive social change starts with an individual who grows in that way. I'll lay all this out for you in my free webinar, Thriving Together. I've gathered everything I've learned in the last 20 years into one integrated program where ultimately you'll have the opportunity to meet others like you, your people, and become experts together. The program helps people who don't fit the mainstream culture bring skill, reality, and kindness to their own lives, their own relationships, and provides the foundation for evolving our culture from the most destructive to the most restorative force on the planet. That's a big statement, and it's true, and I think I can prove it to you. But I've helped hundreds of individuals learn to thrive, and if you've gotten to this point in the video, it means that you're similar to these people, and you're likely to get the same result. You're going to have increased confidence, standing taller, making eye contact, and expressing yourself more confidently with body language that's open and welcoming. You'll have better social skills, initiating conversations, actively listening, and engaging in meaningful interactions with others. And not just by being light and easy and nice and polite, by really honoring what's important to you while being kind to them. So you'll be more attractive to your people, and perhaps just as important, less attractive to your non-people. Let's get the people who are actually going to interact with us in the ways that we want, that are satisfying. You'll have less anxiety, depression, stress, and increased well-being. You'll benefit from your emotions rather than being ruled by them or ignorant of them. And if you're part of a team at home or work, there will be less conflict or more skillful conflict, and you'll get more done. Instead of suppressing and exploding, either internally in anxiety, depression, resentment, and self-criticism, or externally exploding in anger and behavior that doesn't match your own values. Instead of that, you're going to deal with reality early, often, and skillfully by honoring all of who you are, which includes your body, your emotions, and your thoughts, which is a pretty good definition of wisdom. You'll have a better balance between self-care and other care, so you'll experience less resentment, but you'll also know more of what you want and have the skills to advocate for that. You'll have a greater ability to know when to be polite and people-pleasing and go along versus standing up for yourself and setting boundaries when it's important, and it's often important. You're going to experience strength and power that comes from roots rootedness, connection, and kindness rather than dominance and coercion. With newfound self-awareness and support and encouragement from others, you'll be a more active participant in your own life and with those around you because you touch into your spark and passion, and then you show up for that spark so it starts to grow and power your life, which leads to even greater growth and fulfillment and a sense of purpose and direction with decreased drag on your soul. Imagine the energy you're going to bring to your relationships with your kids, your partner, your friends. So check this out. Your experience with hardship is actually a good thing. Your experience with isolation is a positive thing, because if you take that experience and you combine it with the training that we're talking about, it's going to give you an advanced sense of empathy and compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. You'll become an active advocate for issues important to you, from individual mental health to community building to social causes you care deeply about. You'll be able to step out of your comfort zone and explore new ideas and experiment, keyword experiment, with new relationships, new ways of interacting with yourself, your people, your community, and our planet. Finally, you'll feel less lonely and alienated and depressed about not quite fitting, and more engaged, connected, and proud of being a misfit, maybe even, right? Because you understand how important it is for a culture as destructive as ours to have someone like you, someone who's different, showing up as who you are. Just imagine what could happen when people like this, people like you and me, connect and collaborate. We can 10x the ripple effects. Look, you're not going to learn everything I've just talked about and 20 years of integration in one free webinar. It's not possible, but you will learn some very important things. But more importantly, you're going to give yourself a chance to commit to the work necessary to change your life in all the ways I just talked about. Start to learn how we can become one planet private. Click the link to sign up, and I'll see you there. And remember, we need you.